My name is Gerald Green. I was born in Northleach in Gloucestershire in 1928. I enlisted in the Palestine Police Force in September 1946. I had friends in it, family friends were in it. Well, I like the climate, I like the country. We arrived in Haifa. We went overland, other than the ship from Marseille to Port Said, and then we went by train up across the Sinai up into Haifa. Now, we never arrived in Haifa by ship. We arrived in Port Said by ship. But we went by train from Port Said up to Haifa. Well, we didn't see much of Haifa to start with because we went out to Jenin where we trained. That was in the foothills along the plain of Esdraelon, Arab mountain town called Jenin. We could have gone to Jerusalem to scope us to train, or Jenin. Our section went to Jenin. I'm very pleased I trained in Jenin. It's a very wonderful, beautiful spot. You could see Mount Hermon, snow-capped in Syria. Wonderful views from the town of Jenin. It was in the foothills. Well, they seemed to get along reasonably well. I mean, take the city of Haifa. That had about a third of each lot. Arabs, Jews, Brits. They seemed to get along reasonably well. The cause of a lot of the trouble was caused by Adolf Hitler, who for some reason treated the Jews so bad they had nowhere to go, so they fled to Palestine. Well, we didn't don't forget we were Palestine police. We were there to keep the peace. I was in one or two battles, great battle called Mishmar Hamik. That was a great battle that went on for 2 or 3 days. I drove an armoured car. I was in what they had. There was Haifa Operational Patrols, was an armoured car unit. Lydda Operational Patrols was based in Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem Operational Patrols was based in Jerusalem, JOP. All had armoured cars, a crew of 3. Very good vehicle, the GMC armoured car. Had a gun turret, 2 machine guns, and crew of 3. The Battle of Mishmar Hamik, well, that was one of several battles I was in. But Mishmar Hamik went on for some while, the Battle of Mishmar Hamik, 2 or 3 days. April the 9th, 1948, never to be forgotten. It was when a lot of Arabs, we didn't know they were Arabs at the time, were trying to make a stance to come to get to Haifa. Arabs from different countries, about 1,000 of them, and they were well armed and equipped. We didn't know who they were. We were called out there because they were attacking a Jewish settlement, a small Jewish settlement. The battle resolved because they withdrew. Didn't know much about the Zionist movement as such. I was only 18, 19, too busy doing our job there to know much about the Zionist movement. I think General Sir Hugh Stockwell has a lot to answer for. No question about it that he sided with the Jews and let them overrun Haifa. When Haifa was 40% Arab and 60% Jew. He just allowed the Jews to take over Haifa, and being GOC, he wouldn't let us British Army or Palestine police intervene. They could have saved the whole situation there. Well, it came as a bit of a surprise that we were going to pull out. But don't forget, Palestine was a mandated territory. It's not a British colony. It was like Syria was mandated to the French from the League of Nations after the First World War. We had very little we could do about it. But we should have intervened, I think. They were very concerned about it because Britain, although it was mandated, we ran everything there. We had railway workshops. We run the whole country. All the structure was all British run and administered. It was very efficient. I mean, they had in those days had driving license with photographs in them, which was we haven't got such a thing in England. And there was a lot of good things went on there. Yeah, I got wounded by the terrorists, and I've got a metal plate in my skull and a pin in my arm from serving out there, but I stayed on. I owe my life to an Arab surgeon who's still alive, Dr. Sami Huri. He worked at the government hospital in Haifa. He was Palestinian, and he saved my life. He was a neurosurgeon, and he's been in this very house here and stayed with me. He's still alive, Sami. Lives in Amman now. Well, they put a barrel bomb into our police station in Haifa, and the bomb went off and killed quite a few of my colleagues and wounded some of us. But I got better very quickly. And once you're in the Palestine Police Force, they didn't seem to want you to leave. We have people with one eye and one arm in the Palestine Police Force. They never wanted you to leave. Well, a barrel bomb is a bomb because our police headquarters in Haifa City had a fence round it. And they put a bomb on a lorry on a ramp and rolled it over the fence to try and bring the building down. That's a barrel bomb. In November 1947, when they knew we were coming out, well, there was no obvious reaction from either group. I think a lot of them, some of them had some very good jobs, don't forget. We had a Jewish section and an Arab section in the Palestine Police Force. Some of those guys wondered what they were going to do. We had Arab police and Jewish police served alongside us. Well, difficult to say. I think the Jews thought it was God's gift to them. The Arabs were very concerned. The Arabs got on very well with the British. The Arabs did. See, there was a tremendous influx of Jews caused by the uprising of Adolf Hitler in Germany. And they weren't very welcome in Palestine. The old traditional Jew was all right. Been out there donkey's years, they got on quite well with the Arabs. Well, the Jews, well, because basically Palestine was an Arab country. Arab-speaking race, Arab country. Yes, our orders definitely did change. It was very, very sad to see these poor Arab families. We pulled out of Haifa, the British admin and the police, and we went out near the Haifa airport, what we call the trade school billet. And we could see these poor old families, convoys of them, Arabs, cars and vehicles all going up to Lebanon. Very, very sad. General Sir Hugh Stockwell had a hell of a lot to answer for because he would not let us intervene in any disturbances at all, and we should have been able to keep the peace right up to the day we left. We did a 2-month course in Jenin. Jenin is along the plain of Esdraelon, 30 miles to the east of Haifa, and it's an Arab mountain town, a most beautiful spot. See Mount Hermon every morning there, snow-capped in Syria. Beautiful place, Jenin. I enjoyed it there very much, as everybody else did. It was one of 2 police training schools. I'm very pleased I did not go to Jerusalem. Their training school was not such a pleasant as Jenin. After I trained in Jenin, I went to Haifa 6 weeks later. Yes, but being a driver, I traveled all over Palestine. I drove a GMC armored car with a total crew of 3 of us. Wonderful vehicle, the GMC armored car. All-wheel drive, safe as anything, armor-plated floor. a gun turret with a machine gun, Bren gun in it, and another forward Bren gun by the radio operator. Pretty safe in a GMC. We used to do patrols, yes. Being based in Haifa, we did 6 air patrols. And it was up to the driver where he went. We went quite a way around Haifa into Acre and Nazareth and all that. And occasionally we got shot at, but not very often. Well, they were Jewish terrorists to us. They largely kept out the way because we got a sting in our tail. I mean, we got a Bren machine gun in the turret and a forward Bren gun operated by the radio operator. We could give some firepower, and we had hand grenades, a few hand grenades, number 38, number 36 Mills bomb, probably one of the best bombs Britain ever produced. Acre, well, pretty well all Arab Acre at that time. The old prison was there, Acre prison, and yes, a very old town. It had harbour walls and a famous old prison there, Acre. Well, Haifa was a mountain town, straddled Mount Carmel. Very, very wealthy Jewish area on Mount Carmel and Hadar Carmel, which was halfway up the mountain. The Arab population tended to live down at sea level, lower part of the town. But don't forget, when we pulled out, we had Arab police and Jewish police. They lost their jobs, of course. Yes, there was a lot of shooting going, sniping, rifle fire, and bombs and things. It was quite an exciting time. But I would count myself very lucky being in an armoured driver, an armoured car, because we could get her out and see the damage and see what's going on. We had a free hand to drive wherever we like. Yes, quite a few. There was a bus company owned by the Arabs called the Egghead Bus Company. We used to have to escort some of their buses to Jewish settlements over the top of Mount Carmel. So otherwise they'd have been attacked. But I don't think it was collapsing because the administration of Haifa municipality was run by the Brits. In fact, when we left, they asked the surveyor to stay on, a British man, to run Haifa, which he did do. No, I don't think the economy was collapsing. Well, I don't know that the military did. I think they stayed down at Paklim, the army barracks there. I don't think that's quite true. We moved out to the trade school billet near the airport because we were coming to the end of Palestine. No, I don't think that's quite true. Well, there's a lot of things happened. I always remember when we moved out to the trade school billet near the airfield, we used to go to a part of Haifa city near there. There was a great famous Arab guy called Lufty. He had an 8-sided headdress thing. He was a mine of information. And he used to keep telling us there was going to be a big bomb, you see. And we were waiting for this big bomb to come. And what happened? They got up in Beirut, they got an articulated petrol tanker, took the end out and stuffed it with explosives. And they were going to bring it down into Haifa. Now, in Haifa, Carmel Avenue in Haifa, not Carmel Avenue, in Hadara Carmel, there are 2 streets on the side of the mountain run very close. And they got a picture house there, a cinema, massive great cinema. So this big film was going to be on it. They were going to bring this lorry down and plonk it on the lower road beneath it and blow it up. Anyway, Lufty was telling us there was going to be this big bomb, and sure enough, we were about 2 miles out of the trade school, but one night when we heard this God almighty explosion, And yes, the bomb didn't get to where it was intended. Some trigger-happy chap, Arab, in the village up the road towards Lebanon, they challenged this truck, and the driver panicked, put his foot down. They opened up with machine guns and blew the bloody truck up and half a dozen houses as well. But I got wounded. I got a plate in my skull. I owe my life to an Arab surgeon, Dr. Sami Huri, who's still alive. He's 93, 94, now lives in Amman. He put a plate in my skull, and he's remained a friend ever since. He's been in this house here. I've been staying with him in Amman. He set up the Palestine hospital in Amman after Palestine finished, and very well known. He became surgeon to King Hussein, late King Hussein. Yes, Sami. And his son is a neurosurgeon too. Yeah, but if you go to the Palestine hospital, they set up the Huri family. Dr. Sami Huri. He worked at the government hospital in Haifa, and he did such good work on me and some other Brits. The chief surgeon there brought him to England, and he qualified as a surgeon in England, because technically he shouldn't have touched me because his qualifications didn't cover Europe. And when he went back, he couldn't get back to Palestine, so he worked in the refugee camps in Jordan. And one morning, the late King Hussein found him and said, "Well, you can't be here. We'll have to have a hospital. In Amman." So they set the hospital up in Amman, and he ran it. Well, we used to have patrols, 6 patrols, 2 armored cars on the clock all the time. It's a lot of sniping. I got a picture of a barrel bomb somewhere in my album. Yeah, there was a lot of you were shot at with tracer bullets. Well,
what was the fighting like then?
Well, Hugh Stockwell was a GOC, wouldn't let anybody, his troops or police intervene in it, which was terribly wrong, because at least we could have kept the peace right up to the last day. I think he was under the influence of the Israelis, General Hugh Stockwell. He got a lot to answer for. Well, you see these tracer bullets flying about all over the place at night. Mainly at night it was. Well, the Arabs, they came, carloads of Arabs were fleeing Haifa city, going to Lebanon. They used to come past where we moved out to the trade school, which was on the road to Lebanon. Yeah, many of them. Very sad, because we weren't allowed to intervene. General Stockwell, I think he was getting a backhander from the Israelis, I think. Well, we wanted to intervene in it, but we weren't allowed to. As simple as that. Well, because the Jews were overrunning Haifa. That's why the Arabs fled. There was 40% Arab in Haifa, 60% Jew. Don't forget, Haifa was a very modern city in places. Very modern. A very modern eh?
What weapons and tactics did the Jews use to take over the city?
What?
What weapons and tactics did the Jews use to take over the city? How did they go about it?
Well, they had arms and armament. That's where they got them from, God knows, but they were well armed. There was a gang called the Ergenswell Lumi and the Stern Gang. They were well armed. It was much quieter than it had been previously. Very much quieter. There was the Victor Koyat family, big Arabs, but they had American citizenship. And I met one of the Koyats the other day. They got all their property back, and they're developing Haifa in a big way, the Koyat family, today. we didn't know much
What did you
about
know
him,
about?
but we did hear the Jews wanted the Arabs to stay because the Jews didn't want a lot of trouble there. They didn't want a lot of turmoil. I have no knowledge of any loudspeaker trucks, no. Quite right, I've got photographs of that. There was the CRL refineries too. There was a very bad riot there. An awful lot of Jewish workers got murdered. There must have been 300 Jewish workers worked there. A colossal refinery, CRL. They were murdered. We got called out there. Terrible disaster. Well, I don't know all the facts, but there are a lot of Arabs worked there and a lot of Jews worked there, but the Arabs murdered these Jews. It was quite a terrible thing. Bodies all over the place. Yeah, but the CRL refineries, yes. We saw these bodies lying here, there, and everywhere. There was a revolt there, and the Arabs set about the Jewish workers. No, because the dock area you couldn't get into the dock area, you had to go through the gates. The dock area was pretty well a protected area because it had its own police station there and everything. No. One of the worst things that happened out there, I think, was all the vehicles we blew up before we left. They were brand new Humbersnipe police cars, made in England, hadn't been out there a month. We had to blow them all up. We blew all the armoured cars up, took them about 5 miles south of Haifa, up a mountain road, and parked them on the edge and let them roll over, and then blew them up. Terrible disaster. Well, you couldn't give much detail. You'd see columns of people going, pushing things, and bicycles and cars, all heading out of Haifa towards Lebanon. Left Palestine, we stayed on a bit as the Haifa Volunteer Force. The Palestine Police Force worked for the Crown Agents. We were employed by the Crown Agents. But when Palestine finished, we had Haifa Volunteer Force. We were volunteers to stay on. We were employed by the War Office then, just to tidy things up before we finally left. Well, several battles we had, particularly on the road towards Jenin, 2 Jewish settlements along the Mishmar Hamik particularly. I was involved in several battles. There were these Jewish settlements, small Jewish settlements that they seemed to have got arms of their own and weapons and things. Oh, Mishmar Hamik particularly, on the 9th of April 1948. And on 9th of April 48, that was the day when the Jews killed everybody in that village near Jerusalem. I can't think what it was called now. Very famous. They destroyed the whole village of Arabs. You're right, absolutely right. Historical. That was on the 9th of April 48, while we were in the Battle of Mishmar Hamik. There was a very famous Arab leader, I can't think what his name was. Hell of a chap.
Are you thinking of Abdel Qadir al-Husseini?
That's the one. Oh, he was a force to be reckoned with. I think he got killed near Jerusalem, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, he was killed at Kastal, which is very close to Deir Yassin.
That's right. But he was a force. He had a big following. He was a fighter, a freedom fighter. Well, we didn't quite know so much about him as when we came home, we read about him, if you follow what I mean. September 1947, the last week in September. I was rescued by an Arab taxi driver, and rushed to the Arab hospital where Dr. Sami Huri was. We used to have to escort the Arab fire engine. They had 2 fire engines in Haifa. the Jewish fire engine and the Arab. And he was a great driver of the Arab engine, Abdul Sattar. And we used to drive behind him. He used to drive like hell. That was amusing, that was. Well, they weren't supposed to use any weapons at all because we were there to keep the peace. I suppose they used odd stuff. I think Jenin was nice, the Arab mountain town where we trained. You would see Mount Hermon snow-capped every morning, and the plain of Esdraelon, and 19 miles away Nazareth up on the hill there. Very pleasant memory, that. Could have gone to Malaya. I was offered a lot of jobs in colonial work, Malaya and that. Followed my father's profession, chartered surveyor. Same as my father. I've only once been back to Israel. I go to Jordan. Israel, well, for example, the police. Very scruffy lot. Smoke on duty. You go to Jordan, there's still the British sort of influence there. Nicely dressed, pleased to meet you, and all that sort of stuff. But not in Israel. Israel wants your money, but they don't want you. That's what it boils down to. But they're spoiling the country, sadly. They need planning laws brought in, town and country planning laws. They're apt to build anywhere. I mean, it's very, very bad. I've enjoyed this.
Good.
Thanks for coming.